What's up, Womack Nostalgia? Dave here in our podcast. What's going on in pop culture right now? Happy New Year. We're back once again. Same old story. We're doing the same thing. Music, movies, TV. Gonna keep it going. First week out of the break. We got a small one in terms of topics, but some key things to discuss. Most of it was a surprise to me, to be honest. Of course, Squid Game Season 2 out on Netflix. Plenty to discuss. And then also on the music front, we have a new album from Lil Baby and a new album from Bad Bunny. Two really big albums to start the year. Of course, make sure you subscribe, youtube.com/nostalgiapod, linktree.com/nostalgiapod. See those links below. Make sure you get the best of 2025 Spotify playlist for the best songs of the year that I update every week. And let's get into it. What's up, Womack Nostalgia? Dave here with a review of Lil Baby's fourth solo album, WHAM. What's up, Womack Nostalgia? Dave here with a review of Lil Baby's fourth solo album, WHAM. This is the follow-up to Lil Baby's last album, It's Only Me, which came out in the fall of 2022. It's been over 2 years, which is a long time in modern rap, as we know. And Lil Baby, I think, is in a kind of interesting spot in his career at this point where he's very established as a hitmaker, as one of the A-listers of Atlanta and Southern rap. Like, that much is pretty well established and not up for debate at this point. And for me, the question is, like, what kind of artist can Baby grow into? Because throughout this whole run, all this vast success Lil Baby has had, I've never viewed him as an impressive album artist. He is someone to me who has great moments and can really grab you in a way few can, whether it's the introspection of a song like Emotionally Scarred or the pure banger ability of a song like We Paid, older hits like Freestyle. Like, there's moments of brilliance where, like, Lil Baby is kind of unmatchable in terms of his peers in Atlanta. But the albums, to me, never really come together in any kind of impressive way. They're often overlong, overstuffed, but kind of lacking in any kind of consistency, at least that I can connect to. And since that, like, lowercase p problem for his music has, come into focus, I do think Lil Baby has kind of been passed by some of his peers, namely Gunna. When Lil Baby and Gunna both blew up, 2017-ish time, Baby was clearly in the lead there. And I think Gunna has really, really kind of passed Baby just in terms of hit making. And not that I think Gunna's an impressive album artist either, I don't. But it's kind of been interesting to see that. And this album, WHAM, to me, is really coming together with track 2, Dumb, Dumb, and Dumber, featuring Young Thug and Future, which, of course, is notable because it's Thug's first official verse since he was, escaping the Rico trial and the decades in prison that he was under threat from some time, as we know. And the thing is, that song is really just kind of a by the numbers Atlanta rap banger. Nothing special. It's not even that great of a Thug verse. Thug's definitely done a lot more rapping flow gymnastics in the past. Like, he's kind of coasting on that song, right? And I think that's just an issue that I often feel with Baby and Future, for that matter, time to time, is that they kind of coast. Whereas Future, I think, was able to make one of his best albums in a long time last year with We Don't Trust You. I want to get that album from Baby, and WHAM just isn't it for me. I think there's moments, like there are on all of his albums. I think Fuck You Two Times, which has the music video, I think that one's actually really good. That's one of his most fun bangers in a while. I like that song quite a bit. And there's some good features on this. I thought Glorilla, who's had an amazing 2024, I thought she was great on Redbone. I thought 21 Savage made his presence known on Outfit, as he dissing Kendrick Lamar, subliminally on that track, who can say. Even the song with Travis, I think, was pretty fun and almost unusual pair. Wasn't necessarily expecting that to work, but I like that song's stuff. But yeah, I think a lot of the solo tracks just don't really land for me. The issue with Lil Baby's fourth solo album, WHAM, is that Lil Baby remains a singles artist, not an album artist. He has never been one to have a completely compelling album statement. You have to pick out the moments of brilliance. You have to pick out the bangers that really stick with you. I really don't think anything has changed since his last album, which also was a bit of a disappointment. I think his music overall is just becoming a bit stale. Not that the floor is like super low or anything. Again, a song like F You Two Times, I think, is a great banger, one of his best in several years. It's for me, it's just the consistency, and you just don't get that over the course of a whole album. In terms of what I'd like to see Lil Baby do next, I mean, I don't know. I just don't really have high expectations at this point for this next level from him. So until I see it, I'm just gonna kind of take what I get and like a handful of songs and never listen to the others again. That's kind of where I'm at with him. But let me know if you disagree. Please let me know, what do you like about this album, WHAM? Why do you think it's different? Let me know either way. And for more rap reviews, more music reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up? Welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Bad Bunny's 6th album, Debí Tirar Más Fotos, which translates to I should have taken more photos. I mean, what more can you say about Bad Bunny these days, right? Truly a world-conquering global artist in every sense. Of course, his album Un Verano Sin Ti from 2022 remains the most streamed album on Spotify of all time. And of course, since that album, Bad Bunny followed it up with Nadie Sabe from fall 2023. And I think between those two albums, you have kind of the two lanes, so to speak, of what Bad Bunny's career could be in terms of like his global phenomenon status. Obviously, he's been a big artist for some time. X100 Pre came out back in 2018. He's been at the top for a while. But Un Verano Sin Ti, of course, becoming the global smash and the mainstream breakthrough in the United States as well. That was, the very summery, very light, very bright and fun record, right? And then he follows it up with Nadie Sabe, which is a return to his roots, to his early beginnings, namely with Latin trap, and kind of foregoing the traditional reggaeton that he had really broken through with since those Latin trap days. I personally am actually a fan of the Latin trap side of Bad Bunny. I think that is just so fresh, so fun, and like really no one's doing it better when he's on with that sort of thing. I like that style of Bunny. And the question with this new album, Debí Tirar, is what side would he pick there, right? Okay, Nadie Sabe, an album about fame, about being in a new place, namely him spending time in Los Angeles and the United States and away from his native Puerto Rico, right? And again, it's just kind of different. Like where would his career take him, right? I don't think any of us expected him to become J Balvin, but like that was that sort of idea at least was on the mind when you listen to that album. And again, I like that album quite a bit. Bad Bunny's 6th album, Debí Tirar Más Fotos, makes it quite clear that Bunny is looking back to his roots with his latest album. This is a ode to Puerto Rico and the traditional music of Bad Bunny's come up in every sense. This is really pure reggaeton, pure dembow music. You don't really hear any of the Latin trap that he blew up with and then recently returned to on this new album. I don't want to call it back to the basics. The quality is so high, whether it's the layers of instrumentation, the really specific local rhythms. It's quite advanced, but also familiar. It's also cool to hear Bad Bunny once again speak his mind about more serious subjects on songs like Turista and Lo Que Pasó a Hawaii, similar to what he did with El Apagón 2 albums ago. More than anything, I think his stardom is continuing to be incredibly fascinating, but his music is not falling by the wayside at all. He seems to have full command of what kind of career he wants to have, what he wants to say, and how he wants to go about doing that. It's just super cool. Since the rise of Bad Bunny, which again is old news at this point, Latin music has grown more vast on the global stage. Yes, reggaeton paved the way, and Bunny is arguably the biggest, benefactor of that. But now you see other genres from completely other areas of the world, completely other regions, such as, of course, corridos tumbados from Mexico with people like Peso Pluma. You're seeing that become equally mainstream in the United States and equally global outside of its native, hub. And again, we keep talking about this Latin music, but it's the textbook example of the globalization of music and the diversification of sound, but also just the internet connecting everyone in the sense that people are more open to hearing music that's not from where they're from, often in a language they don't speak, and the music speaks for itself. And that is just so awesome, as we know. Of course, this is not the first time that Bunny has released an album in this kind of time frame, right? Traditionally, you don't get big albums from mid-December through early January. It's just not a time to release new content like that on the music side of things. But if we remember, X100 Pre actually came out right after Christmas in 2018, and now he's giving us this new album on a Sunday, no less, January 5th. Obviously, this is the biggest album of the year until proven otherwise, and perhaps we'll finally have a chance for Bad Bunny to get a Album of the Year win at the Grammys. You know, obviously that's a long ways away, but we hope the recognition of where music is on the global stage could cascade down to what the Grammys honor. Time will tell on that front. You know, in terms of the music, again, like, I think for me, like, as someone who, well, I'll be the first to admit, I can't speak to the detail of the intricacies of why this is specifically Puerto Rican reggaeton and why this album recorded in Puerto Rico, made with only Puerto Rican musicians and people in the studio and things like that. I can't really speak to how that comes across. I also am unfamiliar with all the guests on the album who are all Puerto Rican as well. So, like, I'm not the best, you know, arbiter of the specific qualities of this album. But to me, I mean, I love when Bunny is really high energy. And I think, like, that classic reggaeton that he can do just kind of rules. A song like track 1, Nueva Yol, really stands out. Pure reggaeton, but also kind of trap beats under the surface. Sounds really good. Towards the end, you have AOO, which I thought also was really cool. Just really high energy. Track 4, Promofito Nuevo. I love the melody that you get from Bunny on that. He could kind of diversify the sound. The other side of things, like, I'm not the biggest fan of the single El Club. Like, that softer side of Bunny is not really for me. Of course, I mentioned Turista. I mentioned Lo Que Paso a Hawaii, where, you know, Bunny kind of, you know, equivocating what's happened to Hawaii in terms of tourism and, you know, being overrun with foreigners and things like that, and comparing that to Puerto Rico. I think that's quite smart and wise to kind of make that comparison. It sounds cool in the process as well. So yeah, in conclusion, Bad Bunny made a returning to his roots album after his last album was a returning to his come up with Latin trap. It's really cool to see him take these different directions because he can do all of it so well and so compellingly. And now I think we're just going to see how big can this album be. Will there be massive tracks on this album? There will certainly be big tracks, we know that, but Un Verano Sin Ti just sets the bar so incredibly high in terms of just monster tracks. Time will tell on that front. But let me know, what did you think of Bad Bunny's latest album? What did you like most about it? What was your favorite song? And for more music reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. What's up, Back Nostalgia? Dave here with the review of Squid Game Season 2 on Netflix. Of course, Squid Game Season 2, the follow-up to the smash hit Squid Game Season 1 from 2021, which remains the most watched show in Netflix history. Squid Game Season 1 has come under a lot of threat to that title, of course. Stranger Things released a season, Wednesday, Bridgerton, but no. Squid Game Season 1 remains the most popular show in the history of Netflix. And what makes that even more exciting and awesome is that came out without much, fanfare and aplomb in 2021, as we know, becoming the first Netflix series to reach 100 million Netflix accounts, and kind of paving the way for Netflix to continue to invest in Korean content when they announced $2.5+ billion spend over the next 4 years, starting in 2023. They've had other successes like The Glory, Singles Inferno. Korean content and global content in general has become a much bigger aspect of what Netflix wants to do and what kind of business they want to be, as most of their future growth is outside the United States. And just kind of thinking about the impact of Squid Game, I mean, geez, they made a reality show on Netflix regarding Squid Game. Mr. Beast took inspiration from this. There were tons of pop-ups and activations, advertisements. I thought there was a pretty clever Domino's ad on Netflix right now, which I liked. Of course, star Lee Jung-jae won Best Actor at the Emmys. Squid Game in general cleaned up at the Emmys, the first foreign language series to do so. Lee Jung-jae gets cast as the lead in the Star Wars Disney Plus series The Acolyte, which was a huge look for sure. And now we know that Squid Game Season 2 is also, in fact, a big hit, unsurprisingly, breaking Netflix's record for most views for a series in its premiere week. over 50 million views. We've also now learned that Squid Game Season 2 was filmed back-to-back with the third and final season of the series that will be airing later this year, and some leaks suggest that might even be soon, perhaps the first half of the year at the end of June. We'll find out. And of course, I think the appeal of Squid Game and the success of this show really cannot be overstated. I think it's a very impressive series. Of course, it made my top 10 back in 2021 because on its face, it's high concept, right? It's familiar to things like Battle Royale and the Hunger Games and things like that. In terms of down on their luck people taking a chance and playing a life or death game for money, right? But what makes Squid Game so important is just how much more is under that surface in terms of the themes of the show. Themes of societal pressure, desperation, greed, opportunism, self-interest, tribalism, capitalist critique, I think societal comments specific to Korean life, South Korean life as well. There's a lot here. What makes Squid Game Season 2 so impressive is how it evolves and takes the themes of the first season to the next level. While Squid Game Season 1 was really excellent at its presentation of a really compelling and watchable concept, this life or death game, and using that game to push a lot of societal critique and capitalist allegory towards the viewer in a really compelling way. Season 2 turns the themes of the show back around at the individual level, not the societal level, in terms of what people will do when they're that desperate, what makes people complicit in such bad institutions and succumb to their own greed and their own self-interest. Of course, the story is far from done. The show kind of ends in a Empire Strikes Back, good guys have lost type ending. So I'm very interested to see what happens with Season 3 because there's a lot of story left to wrap up. But I do think Season 2 was compelling for where it takes the themes, even though as a season it's probably less fun to watch individually as the first season was, which of course came with so much surprise and the lack of expectations. In terms of I think what's different, Season 2 almost gives us less Lee Jung-jae, less Jihan. He's less of a formal lead of the show, even though he's still the lead. And I think with Season 2, the supporting characters are overall probably less effective than the core supporting characters were in Season 1. Some of these archetypes are familiar to last season, some of them are new. Overall, though, I don't know if anyone in the supporting cast is able to really rise up and have a big presence the way Hoyun's character did in the first season, right? And again, we'll see. A lot of these characters are still around for Season 3, so we'll find out. Also, I think the kind of secondary side plot outside of the games in terms of trying to search and find the location of the island off the coast of Korea, I thought that plot was really thin and sparse, so we'll see what happens with that third season. And of course, the other big thing in Season 2 is that Lee Byung-hun's frontman character actually becomes the kind of secondary lead of the show as he becomes the new player one, of course, unbeknownst to the rest of his fellow players, and he is playing the game, even though he's actually the one running the show. So that, I think, was really cool, that kind of cat and mouse that only one side of the equation is even playing, with Jihan not understanding the deception. I like that a lot. And Lee Byung-hun, he's probably the most famous actor in American audiences in this show, apart from, I guess, Lee Jung-jae's inherited popularity from Squid Game. Byung-hun has been in some Hollywood productions in the past after. I certainly knew who he was already, but it's definitely cool to see him and Lee Jung-jae play off each other. I really like that dynamic. I took a lot of notes about what happened in this series. There's obviously a lot of plot that happens on this show. I'm just going to go over a few of the highlights here. I loved in episode 1 how we have this focus on the recruiter character who we spend a little bit of time with in Season 1, played by Gong Yoo. Gong Yoo gets a showcase episode in episode 1. I think it's very memorable. He was very memorable in that first season, and he gets to show more, and we learn a little bit more about what that character was up to and who that character was in this first episode. Watching his bread or lottery game that he was playing with people he encountered out in public, I think, again, a lot of this you could say is on the nose thematically. I like it. And I thought that does a really good job of highlighting what the show's interested in with this new season. We don't actually get back to the games until episode 3. I did think it was fun, maybe predictable, but I really thought it was fun that Jihan's tooth tracker gets found out by the game makers immediately, and he realizes that he's once again fucked and back in Squid Game, even though he volunteered to return. I thought that was pretty fun. Even like the lead up to that, right? The Halloween episode 2, where he's kind of going to try and seek everything out. I think all that really works. Then once we get back to the games, it's fun to watch these games when you have a lot of expectations and you have familiarity with the games, at least the past ones, only one of which returns, the red light, green light first game. I liked that, and it was fun to see Jihan do this kind of guardian angel type vibe where he's trying to save everyone and end the games that way. And there's a big focus in season 2 about everyone voting to end the games and volunteering to end the games, whether you even believe that's going to work or not. And perhaps that gets a bit repetitive, because you kind of have a sense watching the show that the games are going to always continue. But the show does switch up everything at the end of season 2, where they have the mutiny, they have the rebellion. We don't just keep playing all the games. Of course, in episode 3, that's where we get introduced to a lot of the other players. Immediately, someone who stands out would be Thanos, the rapper character, of course, played by Big Bang's Top. I thought Top was actually kind of fun in this role because he's so over the top and so ridiculous in the performance, but that's the character he's playing. So to me, it kind of made a lot of sense. I enjoyed him as a villain on the show, someone who is motivated and wants to keep playing the games. And as I said before, I really like the focus on a lot of these different characters and their reasonings and their motivations for why they are choosing to vote to continue the games or vote not to. Early on, we have everyone's debts exposed to the whole crowd and put on, Front Street why all these people are here. Of course, they all, willingly volunteered to play this game after all. I thought one of the other secondary subplots, namely the character we get introduced to early on, she's like a mother whose child is still in North Korea. She's a defector, and she joins up with Squid Game, but as a soldier, as a staff member of the games. And we still don't really know a whole lot about her, but like that was her motivation to join up. And then she ends up finding herself as someone who, when people get killed, she does a lot of like the double taps to make sure these rogue workers don't get the organ harvest people before they get fully killed. All of that, again, pretty thin. We just don't have enough connection with that character to really like invest in that plot. We'll see what happens with season 3, but that was probably my least. I thought that was the least interesting aspect of the second season, just because it just wasn't played out enough. In theory, I would love to see other sides of the game, namely, what is that staff like? Those people, why are they signing up to literally murder people? What's going on with that? It just isn't developed enough. I did enjoy, from the spectacle, from the TV watching angle, I liked a lot of the newer games. I thought the one where they're on the spinning wheel and have to make the numbered groups really worked. Probably the best game of all is that 6-leg pentathlon game. I thought that was quite good, very cinematic. I enjoyed that one. I think some of the stuff with the trans character is done very heavy-handed, but that character gets more and more to do as the season progresses, and will still be around for season 3. So I'm hopeful that that character will, I think, pay off a bit more. But I think a lot of the kind of obvious, like really rote dealings with old person talking to trans person and saying off color things, I didn't think any of that was like the best material, that's for sure. And I do think at the end, when the front man has Jihan's friend from home killed and then captures him, I do think that lands as a like feel bad ending, because I do think you get connected to Jihan's friend over the course of the season. So yeah, I like Squid Game season 2. I don't think it's as good as the first season. I think as a season of TV, I don't think it is, even though I think it's a impressive like thematic evolution. And I think a lot of people's feelings about this season will depend on how season 3 goes, because this was very much a interstitial or 2A season, and then season 3 is really like a 2B. So we'll find out. And again, I am willing to give the show a lot of grace in that department, because this show was never conceived as a multi-season story. The creator has openly said as much. And it does seem like it's coming back with pretty compelling way of ending the story. Now we know that the Jihan story will end with season 3 no matter what. But yeah, I mean, Netflix, I remember years ago, right? Ted Sarandos had said, wouldn't it be cool if the next Stranger Things was from a different country? And it is. They found another media franchise and their brand that they will obviously continue for God knows how long in Squid Game, and that is pretty cool. Let me know, what did you think of season 2? What did you like most about it? Let me know, and for more TV reviews, subscribe. I'll see you next time. All right, that's going to do for the pod this week. Next week, we have a much bigger discussion. For starters, we have to do the Oscar nominations predictions. That time is here. And then a lot of stuff is coming out. Some movies I've been waiting to finally be able to catch. September 5, Hard Truths, Better Man. I'm finally going to see Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. I know I'm really late on that. The end of Star Wars Skeleton Crew on Disney Plus, and a new series on Max, The Pit, which looks really interesting. So make sure you subscribe, youtube.com/nostalgiapod, linktree.com/nostalgiapod. See links below. Get the best of 2025 Spotify playlist linked below. Let me know what's good, and I'll see you next week.